the northwest frontier of China, Xinjiang Autonomous Region, along the ancient Altai Mountains, once home to Genghis Khan and the Mongol horde. A fitting destination for the 2017 Adventure Racing World Series China. The toughest human endurance sport in the world will take teams of 4 non-stop for up to 5 days through beautiful mountains and bug-infested deserts with barely a chance to sleep or eat. This race never stops. Mountain biking ancient trade routes and negotiating rivers never rafted before. Teams will navigate by map and compass as the ancient Mongols and Chinese have done before them. This is as much an immersive cultural experience as it is a race. Starting on Lake Kanas, the 493-kilometre course contains mountain biking, whitewater rafting, kayaking and trekking. Expected finish time for the best, 3 days.
I didn't even know this place exists on the map, so to be here is phenomenal, and to know that this kind of beauty is, elsewhere on the planet was pretty phenomenal to see. Just blown away. It looks like the Switzerland of the East. It's just amazing here.
I was really excited to come up to this region of China. I guess it's a part of the world that I've always been excited to go visit. You knew from like when you're a little kid, you have stories of some of the history of these places, and it is kind of exciting to finally come to a place like this.
Being allowed to enter these places that no Westerners have gone to before it's really special, and it makes us feel as athletes very important and respected and welcomed into the community. It's a really great feeling, and it's like another added bonus that we get to explore all these new beautiful places and meet totally different people.
Some youth teams have been invited to race amongst the pros, and some young adventurers may be in well over their heads.
I think it's amazing and fantastic that we've got so many young teams. My first adventure race was probably the biggest life-changing event in my life. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I remember the first time I saw the maps, I was petrified is the only word to describe it.
No shame in saying we're pretty terrified. Our team name is the Aussie Battlers, and we've got no experience in adventure racing. But we think adventure racing is the ultimate endurance sport, and sometimes you get the best experience from jumping in the deep end, and it's going to be the hardest thing that we ever do, I suppose, up till this point in our lives, and so thought we'd probably battle a bit, but pain is temporary.
Immersed in the exotic culture of the Kazakhs and Mongols, 25 of the fastest teams in the world and a few new teams line up to start on the edge of Kanas Lake. Amongst the favourites are Team Haglofs from Sweden.
First of all, I'm expecting really tough competition. Many of the absolute best teams in the world are here.
This race is very important for us because we still haven't qualified for the World Champs, so we'll be fighting for a spot. We're just expecting to have one of our best races of our lives here.
We're hit a podium. For quite a while, we've been the team that's showing all this promise as a young team, and now that we're no longer a young team, I feel like we haven't delivered on our promise that we've shown, so we're here to deliver.
With Team Bones, we kind of have this attitude that we just love racing and we love being together, and part of it is just exploring new landscapes and new places. So we will obviously race a good race and we'll be trying as hard as we can. Is that going to land us on the podium? Maybe. We have the athletic skill and the experience to be able to do that, but ultimately we'll feel most satisfied if we just feel like we've come out doing our best and we've had an amazing time in a new place.
Some teams race to win. For others, it's more about the culture, the landscape and the experience.
We don't really come here to compete and to win. We're here to do our best and to complete the course and to really get out there and experience the terrain and the culture here.
Coming up, we got a 25K paddle up Lake Kanas and back, and then we're doing a whitewater section down that way. So should be about a 4-hour paddle, I'm guessing.
Just one checkpoint, so it's out and back.
Head out, paddle for days, see how we go. After the kayak, we've got 12.5 Ks of whitewater rafting. I've never been whitewater rafting before except in like a touristy context. So it should be interesting. Catch you later. Ooh, sorry. I hope you caught that one.
25 kilometres long and 188 metres deep, Lake Kanas is a jewel in the Altai mountain range. World champions Seagate from New Zealand pull ahead on the kayak leg with a machine-like cadence. Haglofs Silver, arguably the top team in Sweden, confidently sitting on their wake. The battle-hardened team from the USA, Team Bones, keep pace with the race leaders as they head towards checkpoint 1. There's no route to follow in adventure racing. Teams must move together, navigating with map and compass, collecting electronic checkpoints all the way through the course.
Nice paddle, no wind. It's perfect. Okay.
Early in the race, teams take in Lake Canas at its best, calm and framed by mountain peaks. There's little time to appreciate it though, as adventure racing never stops. Even the transitions are a race. Canas River has recently been opened up to rafting, and the teams are the first to negotiate its waters. Seagate out in front. Teams race through the whitewater trying to maintain the world champions' pace. Colombia Vidoraid, ranked third in the world, push hard to keep the hopes of a podium finish alive. Bones and other experienced teams read the water well, hanging in just behind the leaders. Other, less skilled teams focus on survival as they're tossed repeatedly out of their rafts. Racing soon becomes an afterthought. Hazards are everywhere, making the early part of this multi-day race a true adventure, particularly for the youth and inexperienced teams. Seagate, on the other hand, make it look easy as they glide to the finish of the rafting section, relaxed and dry.
I'll take this stuff out and you guys empty the water out the raft. It's not too much in it. And of course those rafts are pretty fun. Nice and shallow, not fill up with water, so we had to just keep bailing and keep on the move. Yeah, we'll just have to find the CP.
But the top teams aren't immune from making errors, a lapse of concentration, and Seagate lose valuable time searching for the transition area where they'll start a 49-kilometre trek. Not far behind them, Hagloff Silver is encouraged by the minimal time they've lost to Seagate.
We made it without swimming, but it was fairly close a few times. We had the boat full of water, but we're happy. That's good fun.
Two of the youth teams from New Zealand are in third and fourth. There's a long way to go, but a podium finish for them would be an impressive feat.
It was so much fun. Yeah, a few good rapids. Caught us off guard and we know how to paddle all right, so I think a couple of teams might struggle. Yeah, we're pretty happy to be in our position we are. Good place, I think.
Colombia Vidoraid from the USA have kept a good pace to keep themselves in contention. With fatigue mounting and the pressure from the teams behind, we'll see how long they can keep their spirits up.
A couple of the rides could have been interesting. It was the flat water that was hard in these boats, but the whitewater was fun.
Yeah, we were a bit slow on the raft because we got so much water inside. It was like rafting with 200-kilo persons that were not paddling.
Good thing we had Roy in the boat though, because he used to be a raft guide, so he rocked it. We're happy. We're really happy with how we're doing. We're really looking forward to the trek.
Racing neck and neck tends to increase the work rate and decrease the amount of thinking the teams do. But in these events, strategy and execution often win over all-out speed.
Walkway along the river. It takes us pretty flat and level all the way to in line with the next checkpoint. And we can head straight up the mountain. We know a lot of other teams have gone up, so we're wondering if thought we'd take a chance and see if it's faster to run flat early and then just climb very short and steep.
The others have been navigating and I've been following, but I got a little bit of cramp, so I'm just going to have to keep an eye on it. So I've been taking it easy for 10 minutes and see how it pans out.
As they push into the snow-peaked Altai Mountains, the pace is exacting a price on the lead teams. The Swedes are reduced to a walk as they approach the stormy-looking mountains, with the youth teams not far behind. With a couple of good route choices, the South Africans find themselves in a much better position.
Some of us aren't used to this altitude, so it's tough to have to breathe a little deeper than usual.
Navigation will play a deciding role in the mountains. The Estonians, world-class orienteers, jump ahead on the mountain approach, having made good strategic choices. Team Bones aren't far off the podium positions, although they've lost a few places since the initial kayaking stage. Columbia Vita Raid is less than content with their position and know it will take everything they have to finish in the top 3. Was pushing hard on the kayak stage a good strategy for Columbia?
We passed them. Marco's not feeling very well, it seems. He did a big catch up on the paddle though, so maybe he burnt himself out there. Don't know, it's a long race. Lots more to come.
And Seagate is still looking good out front.
A little bit scary, the thunder, but
Yeah.
there's some cool views. Yeah, no, it's pretty spectacular up there.
Across ancient nomadic paths into the Altai Mountains, Seagate maintains their lead as all of the teams race into their first night. As darkness falls, navigation is harder, covering the ground is slower, mistakes much more likely. There are few physical barriers that will stop a top-level adventure racing team. They know that just to finish they'll have to endure sleep deprivation and exhaustion, as well as getting wet, hungry and irritable. The end of the mountain trekking section has the teams descending on the 2,000-year-old Himu village in the middle of the Altai Mountains, where they'll have to do a bit of urban orienteering. Seagate's ability to navigate widens the gap between themselves and Hagloff Silver.
Ooh, pretty cold up there. Probably lost about half an hour. Anyway, we're feeling good, so smash the orienteering and get on the bikes.
Yes, left.
It feels good. We have 3 really good teammates. We had some issues trying to find a checkpoint, which might not be exactly in the right spot, but I think we're doing good.
Throughout the night, there's a steady trickle of teams into Himu village. With the orienteering completed, they transition to a 201-kilometre bike section. As Seagate continue to pull ahead, more and more teams focus purely on survival and finishing. The China Adventure Racing World Series has pitched teams against the ancient Altai Mountains. Battling whitewater, sleep deprivation and now dehydration, New Zealand's Seagate hold the lead over Sweden's Hagloffs, with a race developing between the 2 US teams and Estonia for 3rd place. Further back in the pack, the race takes its toll on teams unable to look after themselves, many beginning to drop out.
I didn't really count on the heat. Well, being from Sweden, we don't really have this kind of heat. I lost a lot of salt and lots of water on the paddle. My stomach just blew. It's in a lot of pain.
Since this morning, poor Tim's he's been vomiting and couldn't hold food down, couldn't hold water down, and we've been sort of stopping and resting and trying to kind of get fluids into him, but it's just got to the point where it was getting a bit dodgy out here in the heat, but rather than ride him off completely, we'd call for help.
I realised this morning I just wasn't going to make it. You've got nowhere to hide. The sun's so bright here. This is my 8th race and I've never pulled out of one. There's no comeback in this race.
After 24 hours of non-stop racing, transitioning from the lush mountains into the Gobi Desert is taking its toll on all of the teams.
At the moment we've got about an hour's lead over Silver. We're all a bit thrashed, just trying to look after ourselves, and it's going to be a super hot day. We don't want to push too hard. Silver is a great team, so they'll be pushing us all the way, so hopefully we can just keep staying in front.
Haglos Silva are well aware of where they stand.
We're about half an hour behind Seagate, who's leading at the moment. Still pretty close at this time. You can easily, there's a couple of tricky checkpoints coming up, some route choices on the bike through small towns with maps that are 50 years old. But we had a bit of experience last year through that terrain, and pretty sure we can do it again this year.
Seagate and Haglos are the first to reach the compulsory stop, despite the pressures from Estonia, Bones and Colombia. A chance to rest, reorganise and make some of their own food.
At this checkpoint, there is a 2-hour mandatory stay, and the first part of it is a noodle making session. And once we're done with those, then we've got to stay the remainder of the 2 hours, and we'll probably catch at least an hour's worth of sleep. I think we're 5th right now. There's a lot of great teams behind us, chasing us.
Very hot and very dry out there. Not a lot of water. We ran out of sunscreen, so we're all pretty badly sunburnt and dusty. So yeah, we've been hanging out for this 2-hour stop to refuel and sleep. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the race goes.
While Haglos Silva and the other teams must complete their mandatory stop, Seagate stay out front on the last 50 kilometres of the gruelling desert mountain bike section. The majority of the biking may be behind them, but the desert is not. As dusk falls, they have to locate checkpoints over a 40-kilometre trek on a desert that looks the same in every direction.
But essentially it's up in these hills here. We've got 3 checkpoints to go and get. We've probably got, supposed to be about 8 hours out on this. Gets a bit tricky once it gets dark.
It's an understatement to say the deserts of northwestern China are inhospitable. Historically, this is a land of clashing cultures, conquest, nomads and bandits. It is still a frontier today. Only the most resilient people can survive here. Seagate and Haglos Silva seem to be pulling away in their own race for first and second. This increases the pressure on the teams fighting for the last podium spot. They know it, and the team leaders turn up the pace in a bid to drop the competition. For many, it's definitely a case of more haste, less speed. Poor quality mapping means extra care should be taken.
We're just got a little hiccup with some non-existent trails at the moment, so we're trying to plot a new way around. It's not accurate at all, but it's just things aren't depicted correctly and extra things exist and a lot of things don't exist that are on the map. So we're gonna pick one of these two and see where it goes. We just blew all sorts of time on this. Far one? Yeah. Let's check it out.
While the chasing teams punish themselves in the race for that crucial 3rd place, Seagate doesn't let up on their pursuit for the top spot, and they run the trek to maintain their lead over Haglos Silva.
Oh, there's noises.
Twilight increases the difficulty of locating checkpoints in this monotonous desert. Even Seagate find themselves losing it. Frustration builds as they waste time locating checkpoints, and they risk losing time to Haglos Silva.
No, well...
20 minutes lost, and they're still unable to locate that checkpoint. Just to add to the irritation, there are thousands of biting insects swarming around the teams as they slow down to search.
The thing is, I mean, the maps are sort of that vague that you can't sort of know for certain you're on the right one.
I mean, these guys are very confident because they're such good navigators, so they can confidently say, you know, that it's not in the right place. Because it's quite a big thing, isn't it? You get disqualified if you don't find it.
What do you reckon? Need to wander down this ridge a bit?
Like when we just run down, if we can't see it, we'll have to just head round on that trail.
Oh, we're getting eaten.
Curious to know what's happening on that hill you see. It looks like there's lots of lights over there. Frustrates the hell out of you.
There's real potential for injury as the light fades.
You might see it easy in the night time.
you stand in front of it there.
Seagate are world champions for a reason. They know how to get out of any trouble they get into, and they never give up. Haglof Silva enter the same insect-infested furnace on the evening desert to spend a sleepless night holding on to second place.
We can go down there, or we can go cut across to this one. I mean, that's like
It's the peak.
3 kilometres up to here.
Yeah, I think it's better to take
all the way around.
I mean, stay on the lower one and take a bearing on the left.
48 hours into the race and with less than 1 hour's sleep, Seagate are back on the bikes, having held on to first place overnight. They're now on the final push to the finish line. Anything can happen in adventure racing: navigational error, injury or equipment problems. Haglof Silva are well aware of this, and they won't let up on the pace and their bid to catch Seagate. Estonia has moved comfortably into third place after Bones' navigational error. Haglof Silva collect checkpoints in rapid succession, but it may not be enough to catch Seagate as they arrive at the last checkpoint before the finish line.
Very happy. Yeah, no, I'm real pleased with how things have all panned out.
Seagate crosses the line in first place after 56 hours and 39 minutes of non-stop racing.
It's definitely a cool experience to come and do it. I mean, any overseas race is definitely, a bit different, because if you're just used to, New Zealand terrain and maps and things, and it's always quite an eye-opener.
Just the whole travelling experience I think that'd be
and
great
there's
time.
such cultural, differences. That's one of the reasons I love coming.
Haglof Silva arrive at the last checkpoint realising that first place is no longer possible as they see Seagate's bikes have arrived before them. And they go on to claim second place after 58 hours and 23 minutes.
Of course, I want to beat Seagate, but they were too fast this time as well. But we're happy coming second. Probably one of the most difficult naps I've seen since the maps 1 to 100,000, which is pretty unusual.
Estonia hang on to third place, clocking 61 hours and 20 minutes.
Definitely a lifetime experience that you will remember always.
We wanted to finish top 5, so I believe we did that.
There was a time there where it sort of wasn't looking all that great, but didn't stop us. We just boxed on and got the job done.
And it's that same spirit that saw everyone through, fast or slow, veteran or rookie.
It feels amazing to finish our first race. We went into the race really with very little idea of what we were going to put ourselves through, just with this idea that we were just going to keep going and get to the end.
To finish and still to be able to raise a smile is a huge achievement. The harder it was, the longer the memories will last.